So we're here at a private residence in Norfolk, Virginia, where there's been some unexplained activity occurring. And Linda, she's going to fill us in. She just interviewed the client and got some of the details, and she's going to let us know what's going on.
So, not all of the members of the house have experienced things, but the ones who have experienced stuff have seen strange shadow figures that almost seem to crawl in a reptilian form across the walls, down, sliding underneath things like furniture and into spaces that no human could actually get under. They've also seen some very tall figures. Some of them they described as looking like a store mannequin. Very odd things that they've seen in the house.
One
Now,
of those new deco mannequins.
right, the new deco mannequins, not the old style. Now they've also seen or heard footsteps upstairs in the upstairs section of the house a lot. She said that's what they hear a lot of times when they're sitting downstairs watching TV at night. It'll be the footsteps across the second floor here, with no reasonable explanation as to what is causing these. Even a private investigator was even brought into the home to try to figure out if someone was stalking this woman or following her, because she felt like people were breaking into the house, moving things around without her knowledge. And also, the private investigator happened to hear the footsteps as well when she was here downstairs in the living room. So, some interesting stuff. Now, she has seen some of these figures outside the windows of the house, and this is not a particularly bad neighborhood. It's not one of those neighborhoods where you would expect to find three people standing outside of one window and two people standing outside of another window in the house. So very strange sort of things that she's seen here. Now she's also, like I said, felt a little bit like perhaps someone was following her around the house, watching her. She's worried that perhaps someone is breaking into the house and moving things, because things will be out of place when she comes home during the day. And she's also sat downstairs and watched the clothing of her children being moved while they were dead asleep and not moving at all. She described it as sort of like the inchworm effect, where the clothing would move like it would wrinkle and then flatten out and wrinkle and flatten out, and slowly the clothing would ride up on the children. Now, one of the kids was woken up because she kept pulling the kids' clothes down. One of the children woke up and sat there on the edge of the bed and watched the clothing of his sister being pulled up as well. So this is some really strange things that have occurred in the house here, but unfortunately, she is the only one, along with her son, that has seen it. The husband has not seen it, and I think she's starting to feel like perhaps people don't think she's very credible, or don't believe that she's experiencing the things she's experiencing. They think maybe it's a figment of her imagination. So I'm sure she probably wants a little bit of validation from this investigation, and I hope we can give it to her.
Now I just finished going through getting the baseline pictures. We take pictures of every room from every angle and duplicates, so that if some anomaly shows up in one of the pictures during the investigation, we can compare it to the baseline picture to see if there's a natural explanation for it. I gotta say, at first glance at the house here, I'm keeping my eyes open for three things, and hear me out. The first one is a rational explanation. If there's any way we can find a reason that some of these sounds would have occurred, something that could cast this shadow and a certain movement of lights at that time that may have caused us to move, we're looking for that. We are looking for any signs of spirits, and I'm always open to the possibility of, and this is where it might sound crazy, extraterrestrials, because a lot of these characteristics that have been described here do fit some of the reports from people who have been plagued by extraterrestrials. Right. So you think to put a camera in the living room
Yeah,
where the fireplace is?
yeah. Yeah, because that's like 90% of the things that have been seen in that room with the fireplace. So I think we're going to place a stationary camera there.
Right. Maybe that should be the one that's continuously running.
Right.
And then we'll put a trail cam somewhere else where there's been some sightings of,
Right.
or some motion, but.
Yeah, perhaps upstairs, and I think the son's bedroom where they've played occasionally and heard things and seen things. That may be a good place to place a trail camera.
So, did you get anything in the baseline EMF sweep?
No. They were all really good levels. No. 0 spikes, actually. None. The only spike was, an appliance, but it's supposed to happen.
What about anything else as far as the environment? Anything to note?
The only thing was, I talked to Linda earlier, but, because she said that, the burning of Norfolk, during the Revolutionary War, but she said it was probably, Norfolk has probably like an older section, and
Right.
it probably like wasn't in this area, but I was like, might as well, note it.
Yeah, that's definitely something worth noting.
And there is one other thing.
That was Lord Dunmore, I believe. He had his ships
I
out
have
on
no idea.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, yeah, they were in the harbor and they were like shelling it, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay,
And they
'cause
just
I did
decided
read it
to
a
send
little bit
men
yesterday.
aboard or onto the land to just torch everything. Mm-hmm. Right.
And there's a cemetery too, that's like a few miles from here. I mean, not like super far away from here. I think it's like 2 miles, from here or something like that. But yeah, that was it. There's no other abnormal factors or anything like that.
The client is stating that she's seen these shadow figures, but not figures, just kind of masses doing something like an army crawl. And things just being messed with in general. And so we're going to set it up in there and hopefully get something.
Good call on that. We'll also set a permanently or a continuously running camera in there as well.
Okay, great. That's great.
Alright, so we're back upstairs, and what we're going to do is I'm just going to put this on and listen to the floor. We're going to listen to the walls, because we like to roll out any kind of critters that may be crawling around inside the walls. That could account for some of the thumping noises that are heard. So we got to keep in mind also that it is raining outside, though, so that'll come through as well. But we're just going to kind of poke around and see if we can hear anything unusual. So what's going on down here?
Well, apparently the Connect is picking up something that I don't see personally myself. Our client was standing close to it, but not right on it for it to connect to it site-wise. And I closed the program out and brought it back up, and it's doing the same thing. And it's awkward. It's really
Let's take a look
awkward.
at it.
Yeah, so it was, look where it's pointing.
Okay.
Okay, and
So it's pointing out there.
It's standing right over here. And it's something, and it wasn't a full figure, it was something.
There's something there. Is that you?
Yeah, that's
me.
her.
See, that's me.
Mm-hmm.
But this thing, the first time, was going all across the screen. And I said, well, that's weird. So I closed that out, and I brought up a different one, which is still mapping a skeletal figure. And it didn't show exactly the same thing, but it started showing other things, and no one was in front of it. Yeah. See, I'm
We
here
don't
now.
We don't have that on video, do we?
No.
No. So I messed with that a little bit.
Asking about the action camera here to see if it was recording, but it's not pointed in that direction.
So I did mess with that a
Well, if
little
we
bit,
just-
but it's not going to stay where I wanted to plant it.
Right.
If we mark the time on that camera, let's check that as well,
Okay.
just to see if there was anything weird that it picked up. Maybe if we start in there with a spirit box,
Right.
it may not be conducive to an EVP session at the moment in there, but if we go in there and we run the spirit box, ask some questions, because if there just was some kind of anomaly that
Right.
Moni saw on the connects in there,
Yeah.
perhaps it would be a good start.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll pause listening to the floors
Okay.
for a moment, and we'll go back to that later on.
So I've got the spirit box and I'm putting the earbuds in, and I'm going to start it up, and they're going to ask some questions while I listen to the responses, or potential responses I should say, and we'll see what we get.
right, I'm Jeff,
Moni?
and we don't mean to be here unwanted by any means. We're not here to impose or to ask you to leave or anything like that. We just want to know if there is anybody here with us. Aside from the four of us, is there anybody else here?
Is there something that you're trying to get across to the people that live here?
How long have you been here?
We may have seen someone on our little device over there earlier in the living room. Could you tell us who that was?
Do you like playing with people's sheets and blankets? Why do you do that?
Is there one area of the house that you like the most? Is there anything maybe in the house you're attracted to, possibly? And if you are, why?
Temperature?
Where's the thermometer at?
This one, but
Oh, yes.
Anything weird on it?
It was 72 or 73 when I first recorded it, so 72, 73. What about the temperature? Are you saying that you can change it? Maybe?
nice and warm inside. That changed.
A wreck?
Were you in a wreck? This was a stuffed animal, right? That was messed with, right?
What's that?
Wasn't there? Yeah.
It was a stuffed animal. Stuffed
Were you the
dog.
one that was messing with that stuffed animal? I mean, did that do something to you? Why did you mess with that? You appear to like messing with, the people that live here, like messing with their clothes, like rolling them up and down. I mean, why? You can do that to my jacket, if you want to. I don't care. Just, why are you doing that? It's kind of strange. It's kind of weird. Why do you do that with the bed sheets too? Maybe try to test it. Yeah, try to test it on my jacket. Just try to move it. Try to just roll it up or something, just like you do to the people that live here. I don't mind.
I want to.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, especially being that she didn't hear the question.
Yeah. If you want to, if you're talking about that, you should just go ahead and do it. I don't really care. Or mess with something in the room. Maybe move the curtains right here.
You can mess with me. Maybe you like females.
We do need to keep in mind that this curtain corner is moving because of the vent.
Yeah, that's true. There's a vent over here too. That was kind of weird. I want to. That was weird.
How
Right.
long have you been here?
That was weird. Can you make a noise? Any kind of noise? A knock? Maybe even a voice. Try to make some sound so that to acknowledge your presence. Or where should we go in the house to speak more with you?
Some word I didn't understand, like Donato or Domato. Male voice, it was very clear.
What are you trying to tell our client?
What are you doing? That was another male voice, very clear. Said, what are you doing?
We're trying to communicate. We'd like for you to communicate with us. This is how we communicate. You can talk. You can talk to us through this device. You can let us know you're here with this device on the floor. You can touch one of us nicely.
Not me.
9-3. 9-3.
Some interesting things came from that spirit box session in there, I think, and one of them involved when David said, move my shirt, something to that effect. It said, I want to. And then shortly after that, it said movement, which we didn't get that part in the video, but it did say movement. And that was kind of while I was moving around and while he was still talking about moving his shirt. Somewhat related, perhaps. A word, domato, that we don't really know the meaning of that. We tried to Google it, but perhaps a little further research. We don't have any way of knowing what that means.
It does sound Italian though.
Does, definitely.
does.
Because Domani's like Italian.
And Donato, I think, is the name brand of a frozen pizza or something. I've seen that word in the supermarket.
Oh, that sounds
DiGiorno.
right. DiGiorno.
No,
It's
I'm,
not
no, it's
delivery.
definitely Donato that
Right.
I'm thinking of. It's something.
I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was seeing it when I was calling.
But yeah, that is an Italian name.
It does sound Italian.
But then you mentioned my name as you were saying the spirit box. It said my
I did.
name,
It said your
Yeah.
name.
and then it said
got something for you, something like
something
that.
for you.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. 9-3 were two of the numbers that came through, and 9-3 September 3rd was when they actually had some activity here in the house. So another interesting thing to note.
And it
So-
was such heightened activity that they called the cops out.
Right. So that was a significant date as well.
Yes.
But we're gonna move on upstairs and see if we can find anything up there.
You guys did not see what I saw on the Connect, and it was really weird. And it was at two separate times, because the first time I had an application running, and I closed it out because I thought it was just a blur, or a bleep, or whatever you want to call it, a hiccup. And I started it again, and it was something weird again, something completely different, but very weird.
Not human
No,
form.
no, not a skeletal shape at all. No.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're gonna move on upstairs, and they said there was some activity that occurred primarily in this room to the left, I believe. And we actually do have a camera set up in here. As you can see, we got a trail cam set up on the shelf back here, and this trail cam is set to detect motion. So if anything moves in this room or anything moved while we weren't here, perhaps this trail cam would have captured video of it.
Right.
It's facing the door going across into both of the rooms.
Right.
So it's got a good vantage point from where it sits.
Yeah, this is a little creepy.
And what are you thinking of trying in here? Perhaps an EVP session. Do you think it's quiet enough?
I think we might be able to shut the door and get a quiet enough environment in order to get the EVP session going. And then maybe afterwards try the spirit box again, just to see what can happen. So we're now upstairs, and this is the area where the client said that she feels really bad up here. She hates the feel of this whole upstairs area, so much so that she doesn't have the kids sleep up here anymore. They sleep downstairs on a pull-out sofa or in one of the other bedrooms that are downstairs. She just doesn't feel comfortable with her children sleeping up here by themselves. So we've got the digital voice recorder going. We're upstairs in the son's bedroom. We're going to set this, maybe just right down on the floor here.
All right, so we're set up here for an EVP session. We do have the recorder going. We have an EMF detector going on the floor, thermometer up on the shelf to keep track of the temperature. And we'll start off by saying our names. I'm Jeff.
Linda?
I'm David.
I'm Moni.
And aside from the four of us who just said our names, is there anybody else here with us? If there is, could you please tell us your name?
We have to keep in mind we have a lot of rain outside, so we can hear some of the raindrops falling.
are you the one that's making this room feel so eerie? They're creating the that bad vibes, I guess, up here. Bad energy.
Are you attached to our client? Rain.
What's your purpose for being here?
Did you want to scare the children out of this area, or convince the mother that they shouldn't be up here so you could have all this area up here? Is this your favorite area in the house? Because it's away from everybody else? Do you try to hide up here?
The adjusting of the seat. That was you?
There's no way. Do you want me to tell you what it just happened?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, this door just goes like this.
As we're sitting here.
It, like, almost exactly like that. Like, not kind of, not like, gentle. Like, it was like that.
It was so casual.
Yeah.
that I had to, like, do a second take.
And there's no way.
I could have sworn somebody was coming through the door.
I thought somebody was coming through
Yeah,
the door,
Yeah.
I
like,
thought the
opening
client
it.
was coming through the door.
Yeah, I thought that somebody was standing there. And, like, y'all
That
were
was
looking
weird.
over there and, like, about to say something to him.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you in here with us now? Or did you just leave?
I'm trying to... Yeah, there's no way, because I didn't even, like...
And it just happened to be right after the spirit box did something really weird, which I find kind of ironic as well, because I'm listening to the spirit box, and all of a sudden it sounded like the spirit box locked up on one station, but it kept doing that ch-ch-ch-ch kind of choppy sound in the background, but it was just one station, like an oldie station that we were listening to, and it must have been a fairly local one, but as soon as it did that, it wasn't a minute later that door swung open. So I find that kind of interesting.
Very, very odd.
Yeah.
So some interesting stuff here. We started out with an EVP session, and then we went into a spirit box session. And there were some interesting things coming through the spirit box. Once again, it said my name, correct?
Yes.
Do you recall some other things that might have come through?
I
I know it said
Trying to
fire.
think.
It said invisible.
It did say fire and invisible.
And then
Skeleton?
it said
Skeleton too, yeah.
skeleton.
On the roof. Yeah, on the roof
Yeah.
in the park.
Yep, it said
Um,
skeleton. We said, where's the skeleton? It said on
Yeah.
the roof,
Yeah.
which was weird. It kind of makes me wonder.
Yeah.
Because
Three
I've
of
heard
them.
stories of them finding skeletons in, in walls and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
That's
I
true,
believe
yeah.
In Williamsburg, there's a similar. But it said something like little men.
Little people.
It did say
Little people.
And it's
yeah.
also said 3.
So that's interesting too, because I gotta say, one of the theories I've been kind of leaning towards here is perhaps some extraterrestrial activity. And, we were kind of linking it together a little bit, and we thought, well, invisible, fire, and little people. It kind of ties together a little bit, because whatever's moving around here is somewhat invisible. Aliens are often described as little people, and from what I can gather, these figures that she saw outside the window couldn't have been incredibly tall either. The shadows that move along the walls, that kind of contradicts it a little bit, because the child, he said that there was one that was like 7 foot tall, didn't he?
Yeah, he said, it was like standing in a doorway or something like
There
that
are also-
downstairs.
Right.
Also grays. Grays are known to be extremely tall.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. So you never know what she could be dealing with, but we are leaning towards the fact that it's most likely not a human spirit.
Oh, yeah.
Not likely the way it's moving around and slithering and stuff like that. But I'm gonna have to go back, and when we do our evidence review, I'm gonna have to play that segment, because the recorder's been going, but I had to turn off the camera because nothing, it was just going for so long, and I didn't want to run out of battery and footage and everything else.
However, we did have the trail camera going.
The trail camera was going.
Hopefully
so,
it captured it.
That would be
Yeah.
amazing if that picked it up. But as David
Sure
was
did.
sitting here, the door just started opening, and we thought someone was coming in the room. We thought someone was coming in to check on us, but there was no one there. And do you think it may not have been closed all the way?
Oh no, David.
No, I
David
definitely-
made sure that was shut.
I like clicked
Yeah.
it, and then the
Yeah.
only thing that could have made it move, right, is like I moved like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But look, even when you go like that, like hard,
Yeah, but we didn't even
it's
hear
not
you.
even gonna do
Yeah.
that. I literally went like this.
Or I
It
didn't
didn't-
even hear
nothing
you.
that's making that door.
Yeah.
It didn't
Nothing.
look like it was very
Nothing.
easy to open or easy to
No.
close either when you were
Look at
closing
this,
it.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks
open
like
the door.
it's.
No, it's not gonna.
Like you actually have to like make sure it clicks shut.
Right.
Right.
That's how
And
you
like
do it.
remember when I kept pushing it?
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh man, like it won't shut. I had
Yeah.
to make sure it clicked.
Yeah.
And she even saw that too, so it was definitely closed.
That's probably only the second time I've ever seen that happen.
Right.
It's not a common thing, and I really wish we got it on video.
But we might
Chantilly.
have.
Possibly the trail cam, and we'll play you back the recording so you can kind of hear the reaction. But unfortunately, that's all we got. All right, so I'm kind of excited because we debunked the door. David, if you would go ahead and demonstrate how.
Yeah. Okay, so when you push this door closed, right? That's locked. But then you can push it again. See, it clicks twice. And see, if you sit down there and, you push against the wall, it won't move. But if you click it the first time, and you sit down, and there's a spot exactly down here. You gotta find it. Yep, right there.
So there you have
That's
it.
exactly how I
Wow.
sat down.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's your opening door.
Right there.
And now I don't feel as bad about not catching it on video.
Debunked.
Yep. Man.
That's some good debunking right there.
Yeah. So, as with any residential investigation, the first thing that we do is usually start setting up the equipment and going around and taking our baseline photographs. And this includes taking 2 photographs from every angle inside the home so that we can go back at a later date, use these photos as comparison, and we can also check the photos and see if something is in one photo that is not in another. And this particular investigation was very interesting with the photography. The reason being because this family did not keep their house dirty. It was fairly clean inside. And yet, in almost every single photograph, we managed to catch an orb. And these orbs sometimes were very faint, sometimes very bright, as you can see up here in the very top of the screen. Very bright little orb there, somewhat translucent one down below. And these orbs are the interesting ones because they seem to have their own luminescence. Now we'll switch over to another photograph here that is showing another very faint orb right over top of the television. And then just a moment afterwards we take another photograph and there's one right here, a very bright one again. Now these type of orbs were caught in almost every single picture. For some reason this one's taking a minute to load. But then upstairs we have another interesting thing that's happening here. If you zoom in on this doorway, you can see a very light, very translucent form in here. It seems to go not only against the back wall here, but comes down over top of the carpet. Now if we zoom back in, or back out, flip to the next photo. This is the photo that was taken immediately after the first one, and you can see that that translucent form is gone. So definitely a very interesting thing. Now we can't make out a whole lot from this. We can look at it and make some inferences. It sort of looks like there's an oblong shape here. 2 dark spots that might perhaps be eyes. A little easier to see if you zoom out a little more. And then it looks like there could perhaps be some shoulders here. Now this is not photoshopped in any way. We haven't even taken this and increased the contrast. We may try to do that at a later time just to see if we can pull out some more luminescence or some more brightness out of this figure to see if we can see any more detail of it. But definitely a very interesting capture. And the upstairs, mind you, is where the resident was not comfortable at all in the house. It's the only place in the house where she was afraid to go. She doesn't even allow her kids to sleep upstairs anymore because this area of the house frightens her so much. So some interesting pictures. Now some other pictures actually came from our Connect system. Moni was setting up the Connect in the living room, and I've got a shot here that you might be able to tell. You can see she had set it up on this upper island bar here, and it was facing toward that window that's behind her. Now, she hasn't had it set up in this photograph yet, mind you. But while she was setting this thing up, just after she was done, she happened to get something that looked a little bit strange on it, and she took a photograph of it. So we will zoom in a little bit. Now, as you can see, it's actually mapped something out here. It looks like perhaps this is legs, perhaps the torso coming up in this direction, and we believe that this is actually the door, the back door. So whatever this is appears to be up near the ceiling, floating up near the ceiling. So that was a very interesting thing. Now, mind you, Moni did take her Connect system back to her house. She tried in every way she could to debunk this. She took a wooden back scratcher and sort of held it up above her and waved it around to see if perhaps it would map out that sort of object. Indeed, it did not. So she could find absolutely no reason why a photograph like this or an image like this would have appeared on her Connect system. So again, quite an interesting thing. And mind you, at a later time, we were upstairs, we were doing a spirit box session, and it said skeleton on the roof, which we thought might perhaps relate to this image that she caught up near the ceiling. So we do have an EVP here.
Is there anybody else here with us? If there is, could you please tell us your name?
Now, it's very hard to hear, but if you listen very closely, about 3/4 of the way through the session here, through the audio, you can hear Jeff asking, "Can you please tell us your name?" And overlaid over top of his voice is a very low voice that comes in, and it sounds like it says, "Hi." So we'll play it one more time.
Is there anybody else here with us? If there is, could you please tell us your name?
So like I said, it's kind of hard to hear. This isn't something we've amplified. We haven't cut out the background noise in any way, shape, or form. We certainly have the capability of doing that, but we try not to mess with the audio too much, because the more you mess with it and change the effects and modify it, of course, you know, the more chance you have of messing it up or of having others say that it's not a genuine EVP. But very, very interesting EVP. There were also some very interesting spirit box responses that we got when we were upstairs. Strange things like in the park, and just a lot of really odd responses. And it certainly seemed like somebody was trying to communicate with us. So overall, a very interesting investigation.
So one thing that happened during our spirit box session, our EVP session upstairs in the bedroom, was the door opened. And at first, we were caught off guard. It seemed like someone had opened the door and there was no one there. But we were able to debunk it. We were able to find out that the door actually, it clicks once when it's partially shut, and then it clicks twice when it's shut all the way. And when it's partially shut, there's like a sweet spot on the wall right here where David is sitting. And when he leaned back against that spot, it actually popped the door open. So we were able to debunk that. But I want to show you one thing we could have done better is we could have had a camera rolling on constant record. And this is the one downfall with the motion activated cameras. We had a wild game trail cam set up in that room. And this is the clip right before the door opened. I'm going to go to the end of it here. All right. It goes out at 11:48. You don't see the door open. Okay. The next clip right after it is when the door had opened and he's trying to figure out, he's still a little shocked that it opened because we hadn't debunked it yet at that time. And that's at 11:49. So the matter of seconds that we missed with the motion cam, if it was actual paranormal activity, we would have missed it. We wouldn't have had it recorded. So that's why it is good to have a camera, and I always say with the surveillance system, to have it on constant record, not motion activated. Now we do use these trail cams because we never know. They are good to have because they are motion activated. You can set them wherever you want and they can record in video, they can take pictures, whatever, but at the same time, they can miss something. So if possible, it's always better to have something that's constantly recording.